welcome to another Cheeky Girl Creations video. So I will be doing a page in my A5 planner. This is the last page, and you can see the previous page I created. I did it with my left hand in an iCard in the top right hand corner. And I'm just going to basically create just a page with like a vase and some flowers. And I'll be using a mask from Shaun Petite to trace around, and I'm using the markers just to kind of map out where I want everything and what colors I'm going to use. And the reason I have that stencil as well as others from Shaun Petite is because I'm part of her creative team for 2018 to 2019. You can check out my first video in the iCard in the top right hand corner. And through there, you'll be able to find her channel and other people's videos as well. And that's my first one, so I'll have some throughout the year, and so will others. So please do check that out. I also have that video on my channel as well if you want to see it. And the colors I chose was orange, pink, and blue, as you can see there. I added the leaves like a kind of around it. I didn't really want like to see any stems like in this one. And those sprigs, I just thought I would just use those to kind of balance things out a little bit. I wanted it to be quite like a full bouquet kind of look. So now I've placed the mask back over where the vase is supposed to be. And I've mixed a purple, I think it's called Pale Mauve, with some white. And the purple is from the December box from last year. And the white is by Crawford and Blacks, and that is from the Works. And I didn't blend it perfectly so that you would get like darker and lighter streaks, just to make the background a little bit more interesting, since it was going to be quite a plain background. But I wanted it to be quite plain anyway, so that the vase and flowers would pop out a lot more, just mostly because they are the focal image. I'm just using a flat brush to apply the paint there. And then I'm going to mix the pale mauve with a medium yellow to make a brown, and that makes quite a nice brown, and you'll see that in a little bit. And I'm making sure to hold the mask down while I paint, which is why I'm kind of blocking it, so I apologize for that, so that it wouldn't shift. And then I was adding more yellow to add like a slight highlight, and then like a little bit more purple just to add a little bit of a shadow where it would be. And then I would just go in and add more of that detail later on. And now I've mixed some phthalo blue and black to make a kind of Payne's grey colour. I did add a little bit of white as well, but I'll add more for a highlight later. And that brush there I'm using is from the December box as well. And I'm trying to keep the brush strokes nice and curved so it goes along with the shape of the vase. And that's a liner brush, and that's from Hobbycraft. I'm always raving about these. They're really useful. I use them in most of my videos actually. So I was just using that just to get into like the small corners. So I'm going to fill that all in. Oh, and the September Mixed Media box is sold out, but you can get previous boxes in the link below, and you can also get a multiple subscription box, which will mean that you'll get the upcoming December box, which isn't launched just yet, but then you'll be able to get a space for that, as well as any previous boxes. And the more boxes you add to that order, the more you'll save. So please do check out that in the links below. And now I'm adding some more white just to add some highlights in the vase. And I put more at the top and a little bit at the bottom just to make like the vase look a bit more rounded. And I'm adding a little bit more white using my liner brush. And I was trying to add highlights like without having to use a white pen. I always like to challenge myself doing that every now and again. And I'm adding a little bit more shadow on the tabletop. Again, using the liner brush, that's really useful to get into nice small spaces. And I've added some more highlights. So I've left that to dry. And now I'm going in with the flowers. So I'm using this cadmium orange hue, I believe it's called. I can't remember where that's from though, so sorry about that. And I've mixed that with some white, because what I was going to do is first I was going to like put the initial shape in, as you can see there, and I'm using quite a small palette knife here. And then I'll go in with the original color that isn't tinted, and tinted is when you add white to a color, to add like some kind of medium kind of shadows and a little bit more detail. And I'll add some more white to add the highlights. And I was trying to figure out like what I wanted to put in the middle of the flowers, but I thought I had some of that kind of Payne's Grey kind of color left over, so I'll use that for the middle. And I also added that in some of the parts of the flower just to add some more shadows. And the reason I'm using like the same colors over and over again is when you like stick to quite a small like color scheme, it does tend to look a little bit more cohesive. So I like to do that every now and again, just to see like how it looks. And I did use a lot of colors in this one, but like say when I mixed the brown, I used the pale mauve and yellow, and I knew I was going to use the yellow for those little sprigs as well later on, which is why I did that instead of just getting a brown color. So anyway, the next flower I used Rose, which is from Crawford & Black as well, and that's is from The Works. And I did the same thing. I mixed the rose with the white, put the initial like shape, and then added the rose by itself, then the white, and of course the Payne's Grey. And I've mixed some like Viridian with light yellow green, I think it's called. And the Viridian is weird. It's a bit lumpy. It's always been like that. Oh, the Viridian is from Reeves, by the way. So I'm not sure why it's like that, which is mostly why I put it with the lighter green, just to kind of blend it out a little bit. And I'm using that for the leaves and the sprigs. And I've used my liner brush for the sprigs just to add some like more detail. And then I used another brush for the leaves. And then I'll go in with some shadows and highlights in the leaves and the sprigs. And I added the kind of Payne's Grey color to the greener, the Viridian kind of color to add the shadows. And then of course I'll just use like white for the highlights. Oh, I did mix the white a little bit with the green just to kind of, I didn't want it to be such a bright white just yet. I figured I would probably add a brighter white later on once things were like a little bit dry. And then I just went straight in with the Payne's Grey kind of color to add like the middle of the leaves, just to add a little bit more detail because I thought it was just looking a bit plain and it just didn't look right. And I'm using the liner brush for that detail. And sometimes it helps with the liner brush, especially if the paint's quite thick, to add a little bit of water, not too much. You still want it to be quite opaque, but just enough so that it runs a bit smoother. That's why I like to use my liner brush with inks mostly, because it works beautifully that way. Okay, so now for the blue flower. And I took the Phthalo blue and mix that with white. Actually, no, I mix that with Blue Mist, and I use that color quite a lot, so really light blue. And that is from the June box from last year. So that I use that for the initial color. And then I'm adding some more Phthalo blue to add darker areas. And then I'll go straight in with some Blue Mist. And you can see how light the Blue Mist is. It can look quite white next to darker colors actually. And then of course that dark color in the middle. And you can see I'm jumping around like around the bouquet, and that is because I don't want to smudge my flowers. So I figured if I just kind of like went from area to area, then I wouldn't have to. And I did have to leave this to dry for a little while after I kind of ran out of space before I could go back in again. And this is why I'm also adding, like, doing the sprigs now, to give myself some more time to let the flowers dry. And I'm just using the end of that liner brush to add like the little buds. And I'm using that same yellow I used for the brown, medium yellow. Oh, and I also kind of worked out how I wanted the flowers to like be layered. So the first three I put down will be covered up quite a bit by other flowers. So then the second set I put down won't be covered up as much. And then of course the last set won't be covered at all because they'll be in the forefront, which is also why I had to wait a little while because I had picked which flowers I wanted to be more covered or less covered. So I'm going in with the pink one first for my second layer. And I'm actually missing out the blue one because I actually decided I didn't really want that to be covered too much. And you can see this flower isn't completely right. I mean, it looks a bit square, but that's okay because I knew that it was going to be covered by that blue one that hasn't been painted yet, as well as the orange one. So it was okay. I knew it just would, a part of it would shine through. And I wasn't too much of a fan of how the first pink one like ended up. So I thought I would add more of the darker color in some more areas just to add a little bit more definition like I had with the others, and I like that a lot more. And I went in and did that with my first one. I did that off camera though. I think it might have turned off or something and I didn't realize. I'm now adding a small orange one. And when you add like white to your colors, it's quite good because then you don't have to worry about adding too much or even the flowers being too dark, because when I started with a lighter color, it's okay when I was using like the original color and then just added a little bit more dark because I didn't want it to be like overpowering, which is why I used that. And this is actually one of my favorite techniques to use to do flowers. I really do enjoy it and I haven't done it in a while, so I thought I might as well for the last page. Ooh, and there will be a video coming out of me decorating the cover. Thought I would let you know. And I would be using the September box theme boho chic to do that. And I've already made the unboxing video where I show you what's in it as well as what I create with it for the first time. So please do check that out in the iCard in the top right hand corner and look out for the next video. Okay, so again, the blue one. And you can see how much that the pink flowers already been covered, which is why I wasn't too worried about the shape. I just wanted to get the size right so that the edges would be covered up. And you can see how I've like jumped to the other side. So I did the orange, but then I went over to the blue because I knew the blue wouldn't touch the orange. And then we're going to go to a pink flower next so that I don't smudge any of the others. And I've kind of I've placed the flowers in a triangle shape a little bit. So like if you like line them up, it all goes into like a triangle. And the reason I did that is like when you place things in a kind of triangle shape, it doesn't have to be like perfect, of course. Your eyes tend to focus, like it brings it more into the middle. So that's why I tend to have like three things just to kind of draw your eyes into the middle. And that's what I've done with these flowers. And I'm putting that pink one in there, and you can see there's a little space like between like the orange and the pink one. And I didn't want like the blue flower to be too big because the next blue flower, which will be at the bottom, to be too big. I felt like it would kind of overpower it. So I'll add an extra leaf there just to balance things out a little bit. So I wouldn't just have that random empty space since it is supposed to be a really full bouquet of flowers. And again I'm going in with the sprigs to give myself more time for the flowers to dry before I go into the next ones, because the next two are going to be next to quite wet flowers, and I didn't want, again, no smudging, not too much anyway. So now I'm going in with that leaf, and I did have to mix a new kind of green color, so it's not exactly the same as the others, but that's okay. Again, adding those shadows. So you can see it went a bit dark, but I was able to bring it back with the highlights. Here we are. I'm just kind of blending that in to make it look right. Okay, and the flowers still aren't dry, so I'm going in, adding some more highlights. And I'm using my liner brush because I just really wanted to just add a very fine highlight on the vase, since there already was pretty much some highlights on there already. I was just dabbing away a little smudge there that I had made. Oh, and I'm also adding some highlights onto the tabletop, as you can see there. And the ones I'm adding, like the highlights I'm adding to like the bottom of the vase, I kind of blend out because I don't want it to stand out as much as the top part. And now that everything was pretty much dry, like touch dry, but if you would like to try to smoosh it with the palette knife, it would move. So I'm being very careful around there. I'm adding in my last two flowers, doing the same thing. Oh, and like if you do see one of my videos and you try out what I showed you, please do share on my Facebook group. I would love to see what you create. You can find those links in the description below. And yes, oh, and you can also tag me on Instagram as well, because I would absolutely love to see your creations and see like how everybody else creates something using the same techniques. It's always interesting to see what different people do. And there's my last flower, and that's pretty much it actually. So if you did enjoy the video, please do give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and please do click that bell so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. And I want to thank my subscribers who are sticking with me. You're really helping me out, so thanks for joining me for the ride. There'll be close-up photos at the end of the video so you can see all the detail. And yeah, so thanks again for watching, and please join me again for another arty adventure. Bye!